Alright, quick update on GalaGames. There's a few warning signs I want to talk about. We'll start off with the retest of the volume profiles, move on to some Fibonacci targets, where we're currently sitting at right now, my price targets, as you can obviously tell from the title of the video, and then we're going to wrap up the video updating this GalaGames Elliott wave theory that we talked about the other day. So first of all, let's dive right into the volume profiles. It's going to be a quick one today. As you can see, from this volume cluster all the way to the left side of the screen, basically, since GalaGames got listed over on Binance at 2 cent. We've got this volume profile basically encompassing all of the data that GalaGames has been trading in. Let's drag this over so we get the accurate data that we're currently sitting at right now. And as you can see, when we've dragged this over and re-updated it, where has the price action magnetized to? The price action has pushed right up to this volume cluster right now. You can currently see we're actually trading basically right in the middle, right on the volume profile. We've spent the past few weeks trading at this VPVR zone. If I do reset this to how this was a second ago, before this prior data, a lot of volume came into this market, so take that into consideration. But before we drag this data over, you can see right in the middle of the cluster was right here, and we have started to move to the downside since then. However, if we do now, of course, incorporate the data that we are currently trading in, you can see because there's so much data traded right around this previous volume profile, we've now established a new VPVR. There is tons of data traded around about this 5 cent, basically 5.17 cent if you really want to be specific. So definitely keep your eyes on 5.17, 5.15. If you do start falling beneath this level, it's going to be very, very dangerous for GalaGames because there is a pretty steep drop in terms of the amount of volume that's traded. As we've previously talked on the channel, look at these volume clusters. You spend, when you trade for a decent amount of time, you build up a lot of volume clusters, and when you come into an area where there's not much data traded, in bull markets you can immediately snap to the upside, and in bear markets, as you can see, there was basically a floor established over here on the volume profiles with this cluster, and then a drop into no man's land, and you can really see a lot of the time how quickly price action can move to the downside after falling into the volume profiles, into an area where there's no data traded. In terms of the Fibonacci's, I'm gonna remove a few of these just for 1 second. We've been looking at this 1 cent macro price target down here in this Fibonacci for quite some time now. 1 cent is also a price target associated with lots of listing prices on many different exchanges for GalaGames. 1 cent is also a huge psychological level. It's also a new move down in terms of new lows, and I do believe this would beautifully line up with the Elliott wave theory that we're going to talk about in just 1 second. But removing all of this, from the most recent macro swing high, you can kind of see, if I zoom out, you can see all-time high, macro swing, breakdown, macro swing, breakdown, macro swing, breakdown, and now once again we're currently sitting in another macro swing. But if we're looking at this big swing peak from all the way back here on the 17th of August when GalaGames was around about 7.2 cent, as you can see we've broken to the downside and we've pushed back up, and since then we have had 2 daily candle body closes literally right on the 786 Fibonacci. So currently GalaGames is sitting in a very important place in terms of its previous volume profiles, and also in terms of its Fibonacci's. We're literally sitting right underneath the 786 Fibonacci, and this daily candle that we currently have playing out, the candle body is definitely looking, well, it's not looking, it is a bearish engulfing candle, and it is bearishly engulfing over the previous 2 data points. So it definitely looks like this could be a turning point for GalaGames. And if we do, once again, just quickly pull back these other Fibonacci's, if we do look at some of the fib targets, like from this range to this range and this range low to this range high, you can see, as we've been talking about on the channel, we always take things 1 price target at a time, so do bear in mind there is a significant Fibonacci extension or Fibonacci retracement down here at 1.236. This is a 1.236 extension. Basically it's 6 cent, 0.566 if you want to be specific, but really 1 cent is still the price target I've got my eyes on for quite some time right now, and it does look like as we're getting stuck at this level here, this level here, keep your eyes on this level at basically 6 cent, because if we start falling, if we start continually dramatically dropping from this level that we're at right now, it's very likely we get continuation down to the 1 cent very soon. But let's wrap up this GalaGames segment on this Elliott wave pattern that I talked about the other day called a WXY double free structure. Now this is slightly different from your typical ABC zigzag structure where you have a macro A, B, C, and within this wave count you have a micro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you come down to your final C wave. This is a little bit different. So over on here, you can see how it's calculated. You have your typical zigzag A, B, C to the downside. You have a typical zigzag A, B, C to the downside over here. And in the middle, you have something called an any-free. So this means that, you know, for example, the Elliott waves can go up. You can have an A, B, C. You can have something like an A, B, and a C with a lower high from A, or even you can have a B breaking beneath the C, and then a C kind of slanting to the downside. Basically, any free waves right in the middle before coming down for another zigzag pattern. And this is exactly what I identified on my YouTube channel the other day. And all in all, this pattern is called a WXY double free structure. And it's called a double free because you've got a double zigzag, but you do have 3 ABCs in total. ABC, any free, ABC, and then you have another zigzag, ABC. So coming over to GalaGames, you can see we had our first macro zigzag over here since we topped out at 84 cent. You had an ABC pattern all the way down to your W. Then we had an A and a B. This B actually pushed down lower than this wave right here, and then you had a C pushing up to X over here. So this was your ABC any free pattern, and then of course we can't have another any free. We need to have a typical zigzag ABC, hence the name of the pattern, the double WX free structure. So if we come over to this zigzag, since we started topping out at X, we talked about this over on the channel, how this is the invalidation zone. If you are bearish and you want this Elliott wave theory to play out, you would not want to see price break above 7.3 cent. Otherwise, this would invalidate this entire structure. But unless that happens, it's looking like we've topped out at C. It looks like we've started, you know, wave X down to wave Y. And as you can see, a very, very brutal brutal move down to wave A, a brutal pump back up to wave B, and we should be having a nasty pullback down to wave C. Now, do bear in mind, there is a likelihood of having a very, very, very nasty prolonged move down for C. But according to this Elliott wave theory, this is the final wave in terms of the bear market. So, you know, before you comment and say I'm hating and, you know, I'm saying it's going to go to zero and I'm not a fan, the only reason why I cover GalaGames on this channel is because it is something that I do want to buy when I do believe the price is right. And I've been sitting on the sidelines for this for a very, very long time, covering it on my channel. And of course, I do think a lot of altcoins, and including GalaGames, are getting ready for one nasty meltdown to the downside. And, you know, right now everyone's happy to buy. Everyone was happy to buy 6 months ago. Everyone was happy to buy 12 months ago. But what's going to happen is it's going to come down, and we're going to have this nasty final bearish move to the downside. And when everyone is then saying, you know, I no longer want to buy GalaGames, I don't want to buy it at 1 cent, I don't want to buy it at this volume profile, or not volume profile, sorry, 1.236 fib down here at 0.06 cents. So, you know, round about this range, I could potentially be looking to buy. I would like to see some other things develop in, you know, the equity markets. I'd like to see financial conditions pivot. But as a whole, just a quick update for you for GalaGames. If this is going to play out, you would want to see price action top out before 0.73 cent. I do think price action is starting to head down. And wrapping up the video on some other charts outside of what's happening in GalaGames, because it's very important. If you're doing TA, if you're looking at Bitcoin, if you're looking at altcoins, you need to also look at the greater markets. First of all, we'll talk about a cryptocurrency market chart. This is the USDT Dominance, basically the Tether Dominance. And what happens is, when Tether Dominance drops to the downside, the markets push back up to the upside. When the Tether Dominance drops to the downside, the markets push to the upside. And when the Tether Dominance takes a run to the upside, the markets break to the downside. Tether Dominance takes a move to the upside, markets break down into new lows over here. And if we do look at this chart, and why this makes sense fundamentally is if you think about it this way. So for example, why would you be holding stablecoins? If you wanted to increase your exposure to stablecoins, you'd be predominantly sitting on the sidelines. You don't want to buy Bitcoin right now. You don't want to buy altcoins right now. You're sitting in a quote-unquote safe haven stablecoin because you're sitting in stables. You're not entering the cryptocurrency markets. And opposingly, so for example, let's say you've got a lot of Tether over here and you want to start buying Bitcoin with that. When the Tether dominance starts to fall to the downside, people are selling off their Tether and they're using that Tether to invest in things like Bitcoin and altcoins, GalaGames, what have you. But nonetheless, it's looking like on this chart, we're coming down to a huge trend line, which has been in place for years, since December 2018. And quite recently, we came down to this trend line right here. And once we started bouncing for the USDT dominance, we came up and made a new high. And then, or did we make a new high? No, we basically came up and double topped. But that doesn't matter too much. Bitcoin from this low, when the USDT dominance started bouncing back up, Bitcoin and the altcoins, of course, like Gala, were at a very, very overextended level and they broke down into new lows. So we're coming down to a very, very healthy level of support for the dominance, and we're having a very nice rally coming into today. And for the S&P 500, it also looks like we've got another beautiful Elliott wave pattern coming out over here. This is a 5-wave asymmetrical triangle, which is a continuation pattern depending on which way you break into it. So you can see we topped out for the equity markets up here. For the S&P 500 specifically, we had a bearish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave count to the downside. And then instead of having, you know, an ABC, which is, you know, somewhat very typical Elliott wave theory, which doesn't always play out, we created a different pattern. We created a continuation asymmetrical 5-wave triangle. So we came up and made A, B, C, D, E in this asymmetrical triangle, and according to Elliott wave theory, we should be breaking down from this point and starting to head back down to the downside, continuing in the direction of the trend in which we broke down into. And of course, as you can see, this 5-wave breaking us down into this structure. I've made many videos on the stock market, Bitcoin, liquidity conditions, everything as a whole, gamma squeezes, options markets, bond markets, Fed commentary. When I do make a quick video on GalaGames, do bear in mind I do a lot of other analysis on the channel. Just a quick update for you for GalaGames, showing you a few charts and in my opinion, why I think we're going to start getting stuck at this level and heading down to my price target of 1 cent sooner than you think. That's all I've got for you for this video, my friends. As always, if you do enjoy the content, let me know down below by leaving a like and a comment. Share the videos with your friends, and if you do want more of my posts, charts, memes, on-chain metrics, all that good stuff, be sure to head over to my Twitter at 618_cowboy. But for today, that's all I've got. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'm out. Peace.